go ahead, introduce yourself to the forum.
Yeah, I'm based in Pune, doing consultancy in IT infrastructure. That's it. And PMI member, and here for to understand
Thanks.
on the technology developments. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Vinayak. And let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this event. As the event says, what's next after WhatsApp? So the wave of awareness has been refreshed. I mean, there is a wave of awareness in last 3 weeks as far as the security, privacy, and all such keywords are concerned. It's not so that we are concerned in past 3 weeks only. Such concerns were already there prior to WhatsApp privacy change. No, but they were. I mean, we were ignorant about it, and we did not give much of importance about these aspects. But since last 3 weeks, we all have been hearing about various options that we should switch from WhatsApp to other messenger, and we should be concerned about the data and encryption and all such things. So this is where we thought of organizing this panel discussion. The name of the event, as it says, what's next after WhatsApp, has got two panel discussion. First one would be what's next for enterprise, and followed by what's next for customers. So when I say customers, it also includes various user personas like youngsters, housewives, senior citizens, and all. We will also be joined by Mr. Ankur Agarwal, who is the DCP of Gautam Budh Nagar, and who will also bring in the law and enforcement aspect to the panel discussion. We also have Khushbu Jain. She is a Supreme Court lawyer and a cybersecurity enthusiast. You would see her active in forums as far as the cybersecurity and law are concerned. So, indeed, it is my pleasure to welcome Khushbu today. Welcome, Khushbu.
Thank you.
Then we have Colonel Inder Bara. Colonel Inder Barara, sorry for that.
Yeah.
So Colonel sir is, he's an ex-forces guy, and he is a CISO himself. So he's also active in fronts of blockchain and cybersecurity. Recently, he was nominated as one of the top 50 sought after blockchain experts in India. So that's Colonel Inder for us. Welcome, Colonel Inder.
Yeah.
Next,
Thank you very
we
much.
have.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Colonel Inder. Next one, we have Sanil Nadkarni. Sanil is a global CISO for SLK Group, and he advises various companies in the matters of cybersecurity, and he is a visionary in this field. So, welcome, Sanil, to the
Yep.
forum. If you can just say hi to everyone, we
Hi,
could
hi
see
guys,
you
and thank you very much
in my.
for the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sanil, for joining in. Next, we have is Smith Gonzalez. Smith is one of India's youngest experts. Smith also works closely with various government agencies and advises them. He is joined us with one of his cybersecurity experts. So, Smith, Abhishek, if you guys can just put on your camera and say hello to the forum, please.
Sure. Hi everyone, pleasure connecting.
Thank you so much. And we are about to begin the panel discussion for the day. So I would request Colonel Inder to begin our first panel discussion on what's next for enterprise, wherein he would bring in various security and privacy aspects about enterprise communication, and he would be joined by our esteemed panelists. So over to you, Colonel Inder.
Yeah. Thank you, Chintan, for setting the stage, and it's really wonderful to be here with everyone. and discuss on such a pertinent topic, which is catching everybody's, views and eyeballs and discussions, all forums, and definitely TMI community. It's really wonderful to have, come up with the brilliant idea of having such communication and a kind of a setup where we can discuss this very issue. To start my discussion, because we have a fairly large panel, and how we're going to go about it is that I'd like to take views of the panelists, and then at the later stage we'll have the question and answer session. So I'll just present a couple of slides before I start, so that we'll set the stage, and so that the discussions are there, and we are on the same platform, all of us, right? And we all are very much aware of the WhatsApp privacy, because is the one which has been most talked about, most searched about, most discussed about topic. And this is what was there in all the papers all across the India, where WhatsApp ran a front page ad on several papers in India last week. And this was primarily to clarify to its 450 million user, to explain the changes and debunk all the ideas about privacy. So what they're showing is, and what is actual, that's what we are going to bring it out. And in first part of the discussion, we're going to be talking mostly towards the enterprise kind of WhatsApp enterprise, and then we go on to the WhatsApp privacy policies and other things which are there, right? And like we all know, while you're on either on the WhatsApp or Facebook or Google or any of the social media platform, Instagram, Snapchat, a number of them, even TikTok, for that matter, you're no more a customer to them, because there are no freebies, there are no free lunches which are available. You're a product to all of that, right? And how and why and what is their value, it depends on the data which you're giving to them, right? And that's what they're looking in for. And when it came to the WhatsApp, they're all no different. And you also are wanting to steal your data. So what has happened is, a couple of years back, just to give you a storyline behind it, so that we are in sync, most of us. What has happened was, then last couple of years, when Facebook acquired WhatsApp, this is only part of the company which was non-profitable, other than the Instagram and the Facebook, because we're all aware of that. Facebook is taking the data, putting them on the advertisements, and there are lots of slots, there are prime slots, there are normal slots. And in fact, during the last COVID time, they've earned all this, not only Facebook, all these companies have earned almost $126 billion just in an advertisement. And these advertisements were not just, just put it on the Facebook or any social media. It was a very focused to the customers. And how they were focused, the data was taken from the customers, and thereafter it was being portrayed and put it across to the customers, right? So my first question has been that I'll ask the panelists that what are the changes what they're perceiving from WhatsApp privacy in particular, and as per the clarification which has been given by the WhatsApp, they've been saying that it's more concerning the WhatsApp enterprise customer rather than the normal customer, right? Or the user of WhatsApp. So I'd like to take your views, all of you, as to what are the kind of changes that are coming through in this particular privacy policy from the enterprise perspective. So I'll start with Khushbu to begin with.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Chintanji, for organizing this platform, and Inderji for moderating this session. I think I should be the last one to talk about the things when it comes to business aspect of WhatsApp Next, and what exactly how businesses can benefit out of it. There is always two sides to a coin. So one side is that how this privacy is infringing us. So I would say that your fundamental rights, whether there should be an option So I would say that, okay, it can be a very good idea for the businesses, because this is not the first time that is happening. It's not just WhatsApp who's taking your data. Almost every entity, every app, every website you go to, they all are doing it. I mean, we all are aware about how sinister it is when it comes to taking your data, cache, background selling, cross-selling of your data, cross-selling of your data to third parties. Let's not go on the path that they already write about, that they share it with their internal teams, or they share it with their internal organizations, group companies, but they do share it with third parties. I have always been saying people that just any of the telecom operator SIM cards you have, take it Idea, take it Airtel, just pick it up, just see the privacy policy of Airtel. I think WhatsApp would be absolutely fine when it comes to that. I'm not saying WhatsApp is nice. I'm not saying Airtel is nice when it comes to all those privacy, but I'm just talking about awareness. I'm talking about the part that giving me a choice, giving me an option. But at the same time, when they were doing it, not that they were not doing it, Facebook and WhatsApp were sharing data internally, which is which has been known to us since 2016. Today is the date where they have openly accepted and said that, okay, we are gonna deal with business. They would be sharing with third party. They would be sharing with internals. And it is good flourishing for businesses, small businesses. So I would say that at this time, what we require is that let there be a proper legislation whereas India is concerned, because WhatsApp privacy is different whereas India is concerned, and they are different when it comes to European countries. There is no such changes. The changes which they are coming over here. So
I'll come to these points in a later stage. Those things, because how the international scenario is coming up. Primarily, my query was that what are the changes which are there, and how it's going to change the environment of doing your business, right? Using the WhatsApp business. So that's where kind of if you can throw some light on it.
See, if we are just talking about the part that what are the recent changes, that is to monetize the private data using, if we're talking about, let me just restrict it just to the business aspect of it. Yes, they're going to transact with your data. They're going to, this is an attempt to monetize the private data of the users. Though I would add the part, I can't go without saying that, without giving them choice or without taking their specific clear consent. But yes, they would be trading on your data. There would be change in the aspect that now your personal data, specifics data as to your name, your credit card details, your debit card details, to going to that level of it, they're going to share it. So it might turn out to be good for the enterprises who can buy this data, looking at the aspect of non-personal data framework, which has been introduced by the ministry, and there has been an expert committee working on non-personal data, because it's happening. So it becomes more structured for people, for small businesses to enter into it, to have it. But there has to be more clarity. There has to be more maybe SOP in regard to how businesses can benefit out of it. But WhatsApp it's going to practically get into every detail, including your debit card details, your credit card details, your ID, and other things.
Right. Thank you. And there were 3 pointers which are main thing with they actually when they spoke of, and the 3 pointers were that how the WhatsApp is going to process your data, right? How the businesses use Facebook services to store and manage your WhatsApp chats, and WhatsApp will integrate with other Facebook products. So these were the main 3 pointers which are of point of contention in the complete policy. And it has actually raised the eyebrows. And thereafter, lots of discussions which have actually emerged, and they have shifted the complete policy implementation to mid of May. So Sanil, I'd just like to know your views on, it's being said that several people when you're having a WhatsApp business and WhatsApp application, so it's going to be accessible by several people in that business. That's the line which is there in the policy. So what are your connotations on this particular aspect of it as to how it's going to really affect the people not on the WhatsApp business, right? And how it's going to enable the people who are on the WhatsApp business?
Yeah. So thank you for that question. So largely what's happening is, people, I mean, in the enterprise, I can talk from an enterprise standpoint, since we are a global company dealing with a lot of financial data, right? And what happens is inadvertently, WhatsApp is a very easy form of communication. It's there in all the mobile phones. It's ubiquitous. And therefore, inadvertently, even though you have enterprise applications like Microsoft, Streams, and others, you still inadvertently use WhatsApp, right? Therefore, it's very common form of communication, and people are using extensively to share a lot of sensitive and confidential information. Okay, that's one. Now, with this policy change, there is a huge shift that is happening. I have also got a mandate to find new platforms. So that one thing which and you might have seen that WhatsApp has come back after a backlash, clarifying their their status, or their stand. But we have seen a huge shift to other platforms already. Okay, and we have also mandate, and so as many other organizations are sort of moving that. That's one. So that is a major change happening on the enterprise point, because most of the enterprises are have a legal requirement to be GDPR compliant and a global company. One. Now, two, obviously, since the users will get, as you rightly said, that we all our product and our data would get inadvertently monetized, right? So organizations are keeping a very close watch on that, because most of the sensitive data can be used by the competitors as well, right? I mean, your personal data, and you chat, and I have seen that most of the CXOs and most of the organizations, senior folks also would be chatting on the WhatsApp. So that information inadvertently might get in the hands of the competitors as well. So organizations are keeping a very close watch. And I've seen already a major shift in mobilizing into other platforms. But as we see, and as Khushbu also rightly said, that with the new law, or I mean in India especially, most of the social networking platforms are using a loose handle in deploying this without really looking into granularity and push these policies. So as we saw, there is a revolt. Therefore, I think most of these organizations, and with the new GDPR law coming into force, this will cease to be an illegal, right? Such policies putting on your throat would be illegal. So we often have, and I can talk from an enterprise standpoint, that sharing of all these information should be completely banned, or I would say we use more secure platforms which can be controlled, like Microsoft Teams can be controlled by an organization, and all the data can be managed through an organization. One, B, most of these social networking platforms, we all even use employees as their product and sell several products and policies, which we saw was a breach, and we have sent some legal notification to some of these platforms as well. That we have seen the ads and others coming to our employees as well, right? So that is another thing. So largely, I think these social platforms need to comply with the local law of the land, and with our new data protection law coming into force, these things will be taken care in there.
Perfectly fine. Thanks. Very insightful. So, Smith, because let's have some deep dive and discuss, and uh, just how you view that, what all personal data which is going to be collected and stored for the business, WhatsApp business and WhatsApp enterprise model, and how they're going to be utilizing that particular data for usage. If you can show some light on that.
Sure. So, a very important question in this you have asked me. And when it comes to storing of critical information data that WhatsApp is particularly taking up, as we all know, it has been purchased by Facebook, and Facebook has been allegedly linked into different multiple spectrums, particularly like the Cambridge Analytica. And then, if you go on top of it and see, there have been reports that those data have been shared with different intelligence agencies across the globe, particularly. And then with this, all this particular information is going to be utilized on you in order to map your social presence. And then based on your social presence, your ground presence is going to be identified. This is getting into a reality. I'm sure we all know about the Five Eye project, the US and the US US, UK, Australia, and this Five Eyes that was being created, where Snowden was able to give an entire insight when when Snowden came and provided his highlights on how big that overall surveillancing platform was. We were able to identify the big picture particularly. But what we have to understand now is that WhatsApp is taking the data, and now. But one thing I can say certainly, that post pandemic we have been able to learn certain new fundamentals. That is, earlier it was that these big companies were coming in and pushing us their product, and we were there, and we were not able to rebel particularly, and we were only cyber professionals were able to provide their views, like why they need your contacts, why they need call logs. But now you see, as soon as this policy was pushed, immediately there was a boycott, immediately there was a strong message to Facebook, since they own WhatsApp, that we are not interested in this policy, kindly take it back. And as a result, they were able to push it on WhatsApp business. So you see the dominance that they wanted to create. Certainly, it didn't work from the chain of command that they were initiating, and which also gives a positive message that but as rightly pointed by Khushbu ma'am as well, India needs a strong data protection framework and privacy framework. With corporates, if you ask me, with enterprise, you ask me, from the COVID era, we have seen a huge transformation of your critical information getting discussed and getting connected on these platforms like WhatsApp. But what is more devastating, or what is more critical from your alarm raising, is today there are around 256 people on WhatsApp, and we don't know who all those 256 are. And we are discussing critical information about enterprise on these WhatsApp groups. Imagine the direct access of critical information to the unknown people in those groups. And I may also take it to one more level. Groups like Telegrams, who have around 25,000 people or more, correct me. And over there, all your people have been, all the different contacts have been enabled, all your different employees of enterprise professionals are on those groups. And there is a huge amount of misinformation and huge amount of privacy violation that has been happening from your content, from your piracy. All sort of this information has been particularly being spread. So which brings onto the table. Certainly, so with all the privacy and policy implications, one important factor we should observe is, certainly there needs to be a data privacy and protection framework required. LEAs or the tech giants are not only the people who are interested in your data, but there are criminals as well who are looking forward to come in and breach. There are people there. We all know ransomware as a service, and it is getting popular. It is getting connected into organizations. How they are doing social profiling. Social profiling is done through getting involved in all those groups. So for that matter of fact, we need to understand this concern, and solutions like MDM, MAM should be enforced, and employee level awareness is only not going to help, but strict enforcement of controls with proactive education and drills will help us to solve this problem particularly. Yeah, yes, sir. Over to you. I'm not able to hear you, sir.
Thanks, Smith. Very wonderfully brought it out. And this is what practically they are looking in for: your mobile network, your connection into information, your phone battery status, your signal strength, your app versions, your browser information, your language and time zone, your IP address, your device operation information and identifiers. This is the kind of things what they want, right? And what are they going to do with you? They're going to be really profiling all about you. That's the kind of challenge what we are going to be facing. I'll again show you some, a live site as to what all these companies really try and steal about you. What Smith has just brought in. There's a site called WebK, and just imagine, this is what I'm telling you about the browser, and it's the same thing which when it goes to your WhatsApp or Facebook or any browser for that matter, because they're fingerprinting you thoroughly, right? Wherever you're clicking, and just see the amount of data what we are giving it to all the people all across. So it's taking your Google, locations, your software information, your browser plugins, your preventions, your hardware, your GPUs, your battery status, right? Your connection, your download speeds which are there, right? And in case you put any prevention in that, your social media, where are you logged in? I've never logged into Flickr, but I don't know how it's showing me there, right? And your clickjackings, right? Your autofill phishing forms, gyroscope, mobile network scans, it's doing your images, and shamelessly advertising my other apps, which I'm on. So this is the kind of data which is being sniffed by all these companies. Leave aside, Facebook or Twitter or any one of them. The problem is very genuine. The problem is a real concern right now, right? And my question to Abhishek is that, while we talk of these kind of data which is going, and we also talk of encryption, which is a hallmark of WhatsApp, which has been spoken about by them, and they really are the one who are thumping their back, saying that the data cannot be stolen, the data cannot be sniffed. So, what's your view on that particular aspect of it, especially when, I'll put a scenario where people are there in the group who are using WhatsApp Enterprise or a business, and people who are using normal WhatsApp. Yeah, Abhishek.
So,
Abhishek, can you hear me?
yes, you are totally audible. So, from my point of view, the profiling which you have told, there are various other apps which take your data. So we have to aware people about that also. That what are the things that are going on and all the other things. Like there is an app which like playing games and other things like Bubble Short and all the other apps. They take the permissions which are not required to for a game or a game. But what they will do is like when it comes to WhatsApp, we are concerned about that. But when it comes to other app, we should make aware people about other things also.
Okay. Thanks, Abhishek. I think that's a wonderful point. And Khushbu, I'll go back to you again, because from a PDP perspective, and when we say that this already put on hold for 3 months, what's going to be the scenario after 3 months, whether we'll have the PDP bill in place? If you don't have in place and this kind of policy gets implemented, the data which is there will be taken in quantum before any PDP gets implemented. So how's the situation going to be in due course of time? You're mute. We can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself, please. We can't hear you.
So I wish I could have been in a state to tell you that when it is going to be passed. It's been almost past 3 months, 3 years that we have been waiting for PDP bill to be passed. It was K. Puttaswamy judgment of Supreme Court in 2018 which formed a committee, and after the Sri Krishna committee's report, the bill was to be passed. It's been pending. It's been it has been cleared by the cabinet twice, and but then it did not go through. There have been always a lot of changes. There has been expert committee. There has been joint parliamentary committee who sat on the same, and they asked for views as latest as I think till January, till last the December 2020. There have been a lot of changes into it. They have been going through to and fro about what to include, what not to include, including your data localization norms, including consent, explicit consent, including whether to include right to be forgotten as an option or not. What actually comes under the category of personal data, non-personal data, critical data, sensitive data, what can you share, all these aspects. And at the same time, there have been other bills which have been party to it. There have been a lot of discussions on the health data because it becomes a critical data, and we have been seeing that information with regard to health, how critical it can be for and if it goes to I think Smith and everybody else here, even including you, would agree with me that anybody having access to these data can how all these crimes which we talk about, so-called financial crimes or any other personal crimes also, or using internet is due to having access to the data. So whereas PDP bill is concerned, Coming back to your question, when it should be passed, yes, it should be passed as soon as possible. It's required. It's an urgent need that we need law, because just by talking about, our privacy or talking about other things, not having bill in place, we practically cannot hold these intermediaries, so-called intermediaries, which do not qualify intermediary in my personal view. But all these platforms, including, all your social messaging apps, including your WhatsApp, you practically cannot hold them responsible till the time you don't have your proper law in place, you don't have proper policy or a structure in place. What exactly constitute personal data, non-personal data, what doesn't constitute, what one can and how one has to, and in case of any breach, what exactly should happen, even if, there is profit or loss, no profit. There is one good thing that has come up, that is a policy on non-personal data. I'm repeating because, we practically cannot live in this world, or these businesses cannot flourish without having access to data. But that data can be a non-personal data. That can be an aggregated, anonymized form of non-personal data, which, recently Government of India has come up with a framework, or has, constituted a committee to look into the aspect of non-personal data and come up with some framework or some regulation over it. So central government is at present asking suggestions from parties, from key stakeholders on regulation, on formulating regulation of non-personal data. Now, why I talk about non-personal data specifically? Because there are data, whereas India is concerned, people are trading over it. Whereas India is concerned, I can, if I put in, whereas world is concerned, I can put it that as on 2020, 90 zettabytes, approximately 1 billion terabyte of data is being generated by the world, and it is expected to grow by 175 zettabytes. Now, when we see that, what exactly digital information is, it is practically replaced oil in one of the most valuable commodities. And for India today, as on date, if I look into it, in order to become, or in order to be a digital economy, we need to develop a new architecture, and new architecture which has a systematic data collection, grading, which has data access, which has sharing, and at the same time we have better data analytics among the wide variety of organizations, including pharma, including automobiles, tele, in all streams of it. So I'm saying that it's not that we can't, we have to have a strict no-no, whereas data sharing is concerned, whereas data analytics is concerned. But yes, a demarcation about data, non-personal data and personal data, and what one can trade on, and what are the structures. So what is required as on date is a clear definitions of personal data, non-personal data, a clear guidelines as to how businesses have to use, what not has to be used, and also even if I have a fundamental right as to right to privacy, what exactly is the privacy and what are the guidelines? Those 9 APJ committees, 9 principles which we talk about, the privacy principles, whether they are part of all these applications. They're just principles, which people follow or do not follow. These are the basic standards. But at the same time, whether one has to follow, is there a compulsion to follow those principles? What happens if they do not follow principles? What are the breaches? In case of a breach, or in case I do not follow, what are the punishments? So there has to be a clear punishment. Today's if you look at PDP bill, data protection bill, it is almost as, not practically completely, but as stringent as GDPR. So, to impose such a bill, one has to have a practicality also, one has to provide resources also. If you look at today's, we do have IT Act, which doesn't practically deal with your personal data, or in case of breach, what happens, but it does have section 43A, 72 to talk about. But we also have in place, as on date, from I think since 2018, what I call it as, I'm so sorry, there has been a call. So there has been a circular, or if when we talk about a circular titled which gives the rules for information security practices and procedures for protected systems. So when I talk about that, okay, you need to have law in place, you need to have a SOP also, you need to have guidelines, what one has to follow. Let's say I'm a pharmaceutical company today, and you say that, do not, you have to have security standards, but provide me the standards. What exactly do I have to keep? You cannot have one framework for every entity, every business entity. You cannot treat pharmaceutical and automobile or e-commerce platform at the same level. There has to be a proper information given in regard to what are the measures one has to follow. In case these measures are not followed, what one has to do. So as on date, yes, we do have the security practices and procedure in place issued by Ministry of Information, MITI, which does talk about sensitive information and what happens if you do not have it. But yes, there is a slight ambiguity there also, because in case breach happens and there is no profit or a loss, in that scenario, we as an individual, as users, we as citizens do not have right to, to seek any remedies. So there also there is an ambiguity that why do I have to wait for profit and loss, and one cannot quantify profit and loss today. The information can be clubbed with 10 other informations and some crime can happen, or some advantages can be taken at that time, or some profit and loss can be taken, which cannot be quantified as on date when the breach happens. Now, data protection bill, if it comes in place, we should be happy to know that it has a penalty provision of almost 2 to 4% of global turnover. Each breach, there is a penalty of 2 to 4% of global turnover is the penalty which can be imposed on you. Now, at the same time, in case there is a breach and which is you did not follow the appropriate security measures which have been given and you were being party to it, then even there is an imprisonment for directors and people involved in such activities. So that can act as a deterrent, and it's one of the highest one can think about that, for each breach, if you have penalty as to 2 to 4%, that's something which has to be, which is good to look into the aspect. Data localization is another norm which is there in it. Demarcation or definitions about privacy, different categories. There is a provision of consent. There's a provision of explicit consent. Explicit consent, when I say that, for example, when my data is being shared by any third party, there are certain data which are very crucial. So those crucial data, whenever whenever that crucial specific data is being shared, ask explicit consent at that time from me. Just do not have that 400 pages of consent on my phone, which I have to click on once I download your app, and I gave away all my rights to you. It cannot be in that manner. So there is a provision, whereas new PDP bill is concerned, consent, explicit consent, that any time that happens, you need to have an explicit consent that this is some specific information which we would be sharing it. So ask for it. Without that, you cannot trade with my data, or I cannot be your product, as Inderji's definition was talking about. So I would just conclude by saying, I think we have other people to talk about, and we have 15 minutes. So I would just conclude by saying that it's a high time that we need data protection bill in place. We need non-personal data framework in place, and we, as India, who is highest data generation country, need to have control over the data churning, analytics, and also we need to, our economy should flourish towards the digital economy.
Yeah, thanks, Khushbu. It's quite, Yeah, Khushbu, it's very interesting about the PDP and the GDPR and how it's really going to be implemented. What are going to be the challenges put together? And you very rightly brought in, data is a new oil, and there are different terminologies used by everyone. Data is oxygen, data is gold, data is diamond. But practically, if you look at it in the world scenario, the countries who have the oil are ruling the world today. Similarly, I'll not say the countries, the companies which have the data are ruling the world today, right? That's the scenario we are in today. And it's going to be like that for quite some time. So it's practically and very rightly, data is a new oil, right? And it's going to be fantastic with the companies, stealing the data and getting onto it. And if you look at it, if Google or Facebook is $1 trillion company, they're striving on your data itself, and you are the contributors to their, growth. They have not come up, they had just had the platform. And I was just thinking a couple of days back when Google started, it was just a mere platform in early, 2000 and before that. And while we were using Yahoo, and before that, we were using earlier platforms of Unix that way, right? And when I come back to the WhatsApp itself, and Mark Zuckerberg has got a huge dreams for WhatsApp, because this is not the revenue generating business for him, but his growth of WhatsApp, what he perceives, is to move from $38 million, which is hardly anything in 2000 on the business side, to $3.6 billion in 2024. right? And also getting in a number of users who are going to be there, right? But it is not possible without, the kind of policy which he's been talking of, right? So that's why they are only avoiding the policy to go through at this point in time and not purging the policy. That means even after 3 months, we are going to be at state zero, the way we are today, and it gets implemented, right? And it's being very clearly told by them, it's my way or a highway, right? That's the most critical part of the policy, which it came in the month of January, whether you click it or you delete it, right? So, Sanil, my question to you would be like, how the third party going to access my WhatsApp? Are they going to be able to get my WhatsApp, details from anywhere, and how they're going to be using it? So, if you can
Yeah.
throw some light on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, WhatsApp is gonna monetize the entire profiling of a user, right? So may it be your IP address, your details, as you rightly pointed out, and there is a slew of data that they can capture, right? And now it's an era of digital marketing, right? As an organizations are spending very less in physical advertising and a lot on digital advertising, right? So if you want to, let's say, develop an app and you want to know that what is the demography or what is the age or the credit card spend or whatever the data that you need, the data attributes that you need, right? You can get voluminous amount of data. So WhatsApp would have so much amount of data regardless of gender, caste, crew, geography, locations, and then they can sell this to the third party advertisers, right? And then you have these massive enterprises data lakes that are created. So if I develop a product, right, I really need to understand. So let's say, where are the teenagers? What do they talk? What is their preference of what they eat, and so on and so forth. So if I'm in that space, if I'm a product which is in that space, I would definitely be leveraging on that data and create my product strategies around that data, and that will allow me to take a data decision, right? I mean, decision based on factual data which is coming from WhatsApp, and that will be a huge win for the companies, right? And there are lots of third parties, and as Smith rightly brought out, the major concern is not a legitimate use by the business for using the data, which is still fine, I would say, assuming you have taken all the legal frame. But then what if it gets in the hands of your competitors, right? Now that's a massive thing, as well as it also get in the hands of a hacker or as we also spoke, the nation, and I mean the attack at a nation level, right? The state sponsored attacks on also your enemy nation, right? Now, what if all these data goes in the hands of them? Now, that's how they can leverage that data and point an attack on us. So it is going to be like this unless we have a product which is a paid product, like I was saying, Microsoft Teams, right? You have to pay for it, right? It's not free. So you pay for it, otherwise you become the product, right? So end of the day, my suggestion or my suggestion is, for most of the citizen of India, as well as for everybody, all the users, I would say, is that nothing is free. There's no free lunch. You want security, you want privacy, and you don't want yourself to be a product, then pay for that product, and then rest assured that they should be able to give you those services. So that's my 2 cents in there. So you're on mute, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Smith, the question to you, can WhatsApp see the data? Can they see the chats? And how will it really be going to be up? Because it's a very common question, though
Right.
from a security standpoint, I know it very well what happens, but just to keep everybody on the
So,
same platform, let's hear from you.
sure. So, as we all know about, so first of all, I may just like to add on in certain pointers. Number one, can WhatsApp see our data? So, if we see, there have been so very important thing what we have to understand is from two architectures. two or three precise architecture where WhatsApp is most likely deployed from a technical standpoint. That is your Android, iOS, and your WhatsApp web particularly. What we have to understand from the Android standpoint is so whenever when we talk about Android policy, I have seen certain applications which on one click particularly are able to give all sort of permissions that you can particularly ask from those particular application on that particular platform. So imagine if a particular application gets an access to see notifications, to see your contacts, call logs, internal storage. What can it be done? What can he do? He can certainly try to read the notifications that are coming. Basis on that, he can say which particular sender is trying to send messages. This was there till the earlier versions of the Android operating system. I have to check for the new operating system what is particularly available. Second, when it comes to different attacks on some kind of social engineering attached to it. From social engineering standpoint, attacks like QRL jacking. So there are phishing attacks. Then we see someone sends an OTP to your cell phone, gets the OTP, he gets the WhatsApp access to your particular account. So these all kind of attacks are going to be there. Now, when it comes to can government see those chats or when can the LEA law enforcement can see those chats? Now that's again on WhatsApp particularly. But from the technology standpoint or from the security standpoint, if you ask me, let me tell everyone, this is entirely in public that there are services, there are premium groups on dark web and darknet or on Telegram who are selling 0 days for different solution providers, for different solution integrators. And then there is one bigger fish available in market known as 0DM, where nation states are able because they have those funds to get the particular access, to get the particular exploit being weaponized on a target that they are identifying on. So those forums have been or those companies have been contacted to get those particular 0 days being arranged for those platforms, which where the money is being paid through Bitcoin and have been utilized to target individuals. So this happens on a higher level, broader level. If and who are the precise most targeted people in this sector? The top end companies, the government sector, the key defense establishments are on particular target with this. But from the common citizen standpoint, if they are following the basic cybersecurity policies like ensuring a third party application is not being installed on the cell phone. Second, making sure that genuine developers applications are only installed on the cell phone. Third is ensuring this is a big problem we are facing particularly. All this is happening because today, if there is a new vulnerability because of which the user's data is getting leaked, and then you see on Have I Been Pwned that my password was being breached in Canvas or some recent breach that has happened, I'm not able to do anything. If there is a regulation framework, certainly these people will have to pay penalties. They will make sure that the security that they need to adopt will be the best with whatever controls they take in, whether it's zero trust or all the new secondary controls that they can opt in. But these all policies should be done. Secondly, the data should be in India. If I'm using WhatsApp, I don't mind WhatsApp is a foreign company, but I will very well mind that the data, whatever their data servers are, should be in India. So if anything happens, our law enforcement, who's entirely capable, can go ahead, speak with WhatsApp Nodal, and get accountability of where exactly are those servers. Can properly do a investigation of what was the point of contact through which the breach happened. Was it done purposefully? We have seen in certain companies that certainly companies को data leak करना रहता है. What they do, they show vulnerability, pull out the data. So is that kind of scenario being done by companies? All this can be changed and analyzed if this data is residing in India particularly. And for this, we need the data privacy protection. These were
Yeah,
certain needs.
thanks, Smith. And Abhishek, we know that with the very nature of the privacy policy, they're going to conduct, the profiling of the people. And when I come to the Indian in specific or the user in specific, what kind of profiling are they going to do it? And the nature of profiling and what are the profiles which get created when it gets sold to the Facebook? If you can throw some light on that.
So, sir, it's not my area of expertise, so I will not.
Okay. I'll
Is
ask
mine?
you something different.
Or I can say in general what are the things done in general, but
Yeah,
not.
please tell your experiences,
So,
Abhishek. I will love to listen to you.
Okay, so last time when I have seen one profile of which was leaked online, so it didn't have any means like personal details at all, but it had detail like the person is active on the social media, what is IP random IP address or IP address that he means link connected with, what is his phone numbers and all other details. So by
Right.
like the person is having a means if you have certain tools and all the other things, you can analyze the behavior of a person like when he sleeps or when he use. There's a tool I think at GitHub which can help you with get the details of the person status. So by getting the tool, you can know when the person is sleeping or and when the person is like active or not. And it will help you to create a profile of a person in a great way if you are planning something malicious to happen.
Okay. So you resonate the same point which Smith had brought in. So here I will ask again: are they able to see the WhatsApp messages?
So as per current means notification by WhatsApp and my limited technical knowledge, they are not able to see the WhatsApp the
Right.
messages. But
Okay.
the profile that we get like time details and all the other things that we share,
They're able to see that.
it's
Right.
not in favor of the users.
Perfectly. And they create a profile of a user
Yes.
accordingly, right? Right. So thanks, Abhishek. And I'll go back to Khushbu again. And you had brought in a point of the PDP, and we spoke about that, and also the GDPR, which is there. One point or a question which comes to the mind is that is the WhatsApp policies, are they the same which have been implemented in India with, the other part of the world, or they're different? So would like to have your views on this particular aspect. Khushbu, are you there, Khushbu? I think she's dropped out or she's there. Okay, anyways, Sanil, if you can take on this particular question, right?
Oh
Sanil?
yeah. So what has happened is now the new policy that the India have developed, right? I mean, the WhatsApp has developed, right, is not very similar for the European region. I don't know across all the countries, okay? Because if you see the latest notification, right, they have not done that data sharing and data sharing for Facebook in Europe, right? Because that's where your GDPR gets enforced, right?
Right.
So they have separate policies for Europe and separate policies for India. Okay.
Right.
So now in India we have about millions of users, and
400 million
that's how it's sort
yeah.
of a double standard, right?
We have got 400 million users right now
Yeah,
on the WhatsApp. Yeah.
correct. And they've not given us an option, as you rightly said, other than sharing the data, right? And what data they will be sharing. So should I have an option to, okay, I may only share three or four or five components of data. They've not given that option too. Okay, but if you look at in the Europe, right, there is no changes in the data sharing practice with the update, and therefore that's what we call it as a double standard, right? So and then that's the GDPR, and we don't have our data protection law yet, and therefore they are probably exploiting that. But once that may have come, then this would have been an illegal, or they wouldn't have been able to cut it down our throat.
Yeah, you're right, because they've been hit on their knuckles very
It's
hard when they
absolutely,
were.
yeah.
Yeah. Khushbu, you're there back, I think. Yes, please. I'd like to have
Yeah,
your views as well.
it's absolutely rightly. No, it's absolutely rightly put by Sanil that the privacy policy, as I was saying earlier, also that it's different whereas we are concerned, whereas European countries are concerned. But that's because of the part that they have GDPR, they have stringent data protection laws in place, which WhatsApp has to abide with. And in the absence of our data protection bill in place or any other proper regulation in place, which gives which formulates certain regulations and guidelines and which has rules and policies in place which talks about what exactly is data one has to take, what are the consent, what are the liabilities whereas data fiduciary is concerned of these apps, and what are the rights which data consent data projects, or as users have it, and also incorporating the part of data protection DPO in case of any breach. So, in the absence of data protection bill in India, there has been a huge difference, whereas Europe and India is concerned. Whereas privacy policy, WhatsApp privacy policy, if we talk about.
Right. Thanks, Shu. And that's what the point is, because they're taking the advantage of a weak laws right now, and they're trying to extract the maximum amount of data before the PDP comes in, and they get away with it. And that's how all the biggies, all the companies with the data, they're trying to work it out. And if you read through the papers, they're all flouting the rules, they're all flouting the tax rules, they're all flouting the data rules. So they know that there are no laws in place which can tighten the noose around the neck. So that's where the problem which lies, right? And Smith, I come back to you. What WhatsApp app captures the information about the other apps running on the mobile phones of the user, like what Facebook does. Like, we know about the Facebook, it captures everything, whether you're online or on an offline mode, and it takes so much more data, right? And to give you a background, Facebook changed its policy very quietly last year. It was only changed on the application, not on the desktop, where it said that we can capture the data of all your applications, even when you're in an offline mode. And it very rightly does so. And if you go to the mobile app and see what applications it's sniffing, there'll be a mind-boggling details which will be there. It's going to be really troublesome. And you'll say, delete the app in the first go. So, what all information does it capture? Does it, firstly, does it do it, or whether it's the plan to do it? I'd like to have your views on that.
Sure. So if you see WhatsApp particularly, or any sort of applications, the main problem is with the improper handling of permission models by the platforms that have been designed in itself, like Android or iOS. The problem that I see is that whenever a developer creates an application, how is an application being processed? So first we'll have to understand how these applications get processed into the Android or iOS. They have to provide a use case of why you need this permission and what is the purpose. WhatsApp gets your contact permissions particularly. So they are able to dump all the contacts that you have on their system, number one. They are able to hear microphone. The reason is that whenever you want to whenever you want to put an audio message, or whenever you want to speak using WhatsApp call, it watches your camera when you want to do a video call. So all these permissions are being taken to showcase that particularly that this application is required whenever it requires that particular permission for doing a XYZ activity. But the more concerned problem is this data that WhatsApp is taking today. We all know WhatsApp, right? But you see the Android and the iOS platform, that is the bigger problem for us, that this platform that they have created particularly have got these permission models, and there are we as a security professional as well can at least find at least 2 or 3 applications on a cell phone running which are non-trusted developers and who are also taking these permissions. And whenever we help law enforcement agencies tackling cyber crimes and all, we see that the blackmail and the harassment issues are happening because of this particular policy. That is, some application has been created, passed into the Android or the iOS the Play Store. They install it, they get contact, call log, SMSs, and then there is a harassment chain that has been trained. So somewhere Docker integrate containerization, I was identifying some IEEE papers. So containerizations of permission model is something that we have to look particularly. So that a specific amount of data that you want to share can be getting shared particularly. This is what I wanted to add. So you're not audible. Inder sir.
One question to all my panelists, where does the data of WhatsApp reside? Anyone who can take it on. It's a big question. So anyone who can, like to answer and give your views. that's the bigger challenge. So before I hand over to my next, the chairperson for the discussion. So that was the major challenge we were facing with the WhatsApp. We really don't know where our data is today. Amongst any panel and any of the
So in
attendees,
the data,
if you can please throw some light on
yeah,
that, please.
in the data, see, the data depends, right? I mean, your data first gets stored on the device itself, right?
No,
Right.
no, I'm not. No, Sanil, I'm saying about the about the Facebook company per se, not the device, not your data on the mobile.
Yeah, and
Whatever
see,
the data on the data centers, I'll say
okay,
that.
yeah. It will be stored in their data centers, but mind you, we have seen during our investigations as well that once you take a backup, right, you have an Android phone, your data might get backed up on Google server or your Google OneDrive, right, your Google shared drives and so on and so forth. So the chances that you might feel that your data is there only at one place may
We
not.
lost you, Sanil.
Yeah, are you able to hear me now? Hello, is
Yes,
it
Yeah, we are
better?
able to hear you.
We lost you on
Yeah.
that. Wait a second.
Okay. So I said that, while we might feel that the data is
Can you hear
getting
me?
stored. Are you able to hear me? Hello?
yes, yes, yes. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
can you
what I
hear
was,
me? Yeah.
yeah. So what happens is, the data we believe that might get stored on WhatsApp server, right? But the chances are when you take a backup of your WhatsApp, right, the
Okay.
data might get stored on Google Drive or your Apple iOS cloud as well.
Right.
So if a user or a hacker can get hold of that, he can also probably get in the hands of your
Right.
WhatsApp chats and WhatsApp data. So the data might get stored anywhere,
Right. I'll summarize these couple of points here. One, what Khushbu brought in, and it was a point where we spoke of the PDB bill, and one of the major point is of the data localization. And real point of concern is, frankly, we don't know where are the data centers of the Facebook and the WhatsApp where the data resides, whether we have the copy of the same in India. That's where it becomes a major challenge for even the law enforcement agencies to really track this particular data if they have to ask from WhatsApp or the Facebook company, right? That's a major point of concern today. And this, if the data localization bill comes in, the PDB comes in, this may get resolved. And this is one of the very pertinent point of the overall discussion. The second point, which I would like to bring in, though I wanted to ask all my panelists, but then I would like to self take it, is about there was a case a couple of months back in the month of October in US court where a case was filed as a public litigation asking Google as to why did they sign a MOU with WhatsApp, right, in the year 2016 or 17 somewhere. And what was the main reason behind, you know, uh, doing that MOU? The reason was very simple. Whenever you safeguard your data, or whenever you're uploading the data onto the Google Drive or the OneDrive, which we call now, your data at rest is no more encrypted. The encryption goes away. The one-on-one encryption which is there, it's no more there when it's residing on those data centers, right? Because it's offline now. And that's the point of concern which really came up. And there has been no clear answer by the Google also in that particular litigation which was raised as to why did they sign. And WhatsApp practically never gave any reply to it as to why they signed. Though this kind of thing never came up with the Mac or the Apple. But now you understand how this game is so intrinsic to all these data hungry companies like Google, Facebook, and Twitter and all those companies who are there, and how they're utilizing it, how they're hands in hand in all those things. And also, just want to share one point of it is that, like we have a normal auction of, for anything for that matter, when you put the billboards, there's an auction for data, and there's a kind of data which is there, which is if it's a good data or whether it's a bad data. Based on that, there's an auction, and there's a different companies who are buying that data. And secondly, there's an auction on Google, on Facebook, on Instagram, where your data is being sold, and there all the slots are again auctioned. So whatever you see is an auction slot. So there are prime slots, there are non-prime slots, there are different kind of methodologies which have evolved over the last couple of years, right? And that's how you're seeing the data. And that is how they are trying to grow the business altogether, right? So these are the kind of some pinpricking points which are there. I leave it to you all because they got no set answers. They are not got no set rules. They defy all the rules. They defy all the laws. They defy all the policies in place while we are discussing so. But definitely, these are points which you can think it over and come up with some kind of a answer to yourself whenever it happens. So I thank all my panelists in this particular session of WhatsApp for Enterprise. I think I short by 15 minutes. Over to Chintan back, to take it on.
Thank you, Kanal sir, and let us open the floor for Q&A with panelists and the points which have been brought out. So kindly put on your camera and share your questions. In the meanwhile, we have our first question. I would also like to recognize the presence of Mr. Brijesh Singh ji, who is the IGP of Maharashtra Cybercrime Police. So he just joined in briefly, but it seems there is some other call at his end, so he is logged off. He must be joining us again very soon. So let us begin. Rajesh, you have a question to ask or point to make. I mean, there are two things. One is either question or feel free to make a point as well. I mean, we have a learned audience as well. Please go ahead, Rajesh.
Hi, Inderji. So I'm trying to answer that question with respect to the servers that Facebook has. So Facebook has its servers all over the place. They also have a few servers in India. And always what they do is the data is kept in the server and based on the server which is just outside the country in perspective of their sense of disaster recovery and continuity service.
Right.
So that's how all the new companies work. They always have the servers all across the place.
Yeah. So because this will be Rajesh, but this will be very important because you see, when we talk of the PDP bill which is coming in, and one of the major point which is there is the data localization. And this was the most unclear point when it came to the Facebook data and the WhatsApp data.
No, in fact,
even the government of India, Ministry of IT, has asked a very pertinent question and very specific question. Where is the data to the WhatsApp? And they asked, where is your location of your data centers? Please tell us.
Also, if you talk to the legal fraternity, they'll tell you that when they have to serve notices to these companies to provide information, they really struggle because they operate in the courts of California, typically when they're US-based companies, for any access that they need post an authorization from the legal authority. While Indian companies operate in India and they have it there and they comply to them. So that's where the problem had started, wherein when they used to ask them, they will take their own sweet time and they don't follow the purview. The data also is very limited that comes here only from caching purposes. Rest of them is outside the country. That's where it all got started. That's where it all got started initially.
Yes,
your turn, sir. Your turn to speak.
Yeah. No, I think that's what you have brought in, the valid point, because that's where the challenge lies altogether.
I'm done, sir. Next.
Hi, hello.
Yes, Ajit. Shahid, sorry.
Yeah, hi, Shahid. Good morning, all of you. I'm from the telecom background, and the agency have the rights to monitor and to intercept all the calls and the data through the intercept means access on every IP. So why it is fair in public for WhatsApp data policy only? So need to understand the before and
Right.
after for this.
Okay. I've got my two other panelists who are really into hardcore technology, Smith and Abhishek. Both of you, if you can reply to that particular question, I think very important.
Can you come back? Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, my question is we are in fear that the what about the data security for
Hmm.
WhatsApp. However, the data
Huh.
security and the access are available for
Hmm.
all the agencies through lawful interception policy for every IP, because WhatsApp is nothing alone, and WhatsApp is linked with a mobile number, and every mobile number is traceable by the Indian government's agencies to trace its the personal data, professional data. Then the data policy and usage of data is limited now with the agencies only. However, it may be used as a business case for others competitor.
Okay. So let me tell you. So I've been voluntarily supporting law enforcement agencies whenever they require help in cybersecurity and cybercrime. Trust me, I have not seen one single case where the purpose or the objective of any law enforcement agency was to do any mislawful activity. Number one. Second, agency as well has certain barriers. In fact, Khushbu ma'am can agree with me. Today, no agency can get any sort of critical access unless there is a police complaint about the target. Second, in certain scenarios where there is an activity like terrorism being involved, those scenarios, the government has entire coordination and access to ensure that all whatever support is being needed is being provided to act for an unlawful means that have been committed particularly. So this is what I may tell. But what is the bigger picture particularly? The bigger picture is the problem is not with law enforcement agency, that law enforcement agency can utilize this data. But the problem comes from the internal communications, from the internal developers, software marketing professionals, or digital marketing agents. The reason I'm telling this, recently you must have seen Mumbai police busted a racket of 123 of two individuals they nabbed from West Bengal, and those people were running this website. Those people were cloning websites, cloning applications, and giving them as service. And all were trained software development professionals and market and digital marketers. So what happens is, imagine these people are pushing an app impersonating like WhatsApp into your cell phone. How are they pushing it? Through external means, or through external or non-Play Store applications particularly, and then they are able to get critical information out, or they're sending you certain kind of links. So this gets on a better note, and this becomes a better challenge, better case study or a challenge where these people, the hackers or mercenary hackers can come in and exploit. Whereas law enforcement agency has their own barriers and rules, and that's the reason they can't escalate. At the end, it's a democracy, so no one can particularly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So a good point. I think, Shahid, I think it replied to your query, which was there. And there's
Yeah,
one
yeah.
question from Om Mishra. So, he's written it a couple of times. I think we should respond to that. Omji, how does it impact a business, to be specific, India IT business, from the perspective of coming up PDP, EU GDPR, and California CCPA, and maybe a few more upcoming regulations? And the second part of the question is, can someone throw light on this? Is there a difference between a WhatsApp personal versus WhatsApp business with respect to this regulation? So I'll request Khushbu to take on to the first part of the question, if you may like. Khushbu, are you there?
Khushbu?
Yeah, I'll just throw light on this, Om. Firstly, the second part of the question I'll take first, and then let me go on to for the first part of it. What is practically happening is, when we are talking about WhatsApp business vis-a-vis your normal, yeah, So the first part of the business, the first part of the WhatsApp business is, there are three things which it's supposed to do with your normal kind of, WhatsApp, what you're using. One, have a notifications, like your flight status, your, hotel booking, your insurances and stuff like that, right? And the second is the live chat, which is supposed to be there for the business users. You can have a live chat between them. And third is you can push the notifications, to your customers who are there. And also, what you need to do is you have to be kind of some kind of a sponsored messages as and when it comes up. I don't know whether there's one question which is always there in my mind, whether you'll be able to see the advertisements on the WhatsApp or not. So that question still remains, and only time will tell us, right? And also you have the conversation labels which can be put. These are the things which are not there in your normal, WhatsApp. WhatsApp what you're using. So this is where there's a difference between a WhatsApp business and a WhatsApp normal, but there's something more to it. There's also there are people who are using WhatsApp business APIs, right? And those APIs are primarily more business oriented, specific to the business. They are able to integrate with the other systems. You can have a verified business profiles which you can create using them. You can send bulk notifications. You can have your own CRM. You can connect it to that. You can have automated message systems which are there, and you can also have a multi-agent access. So those are the kind of things which you can use using the API. So that's where the things are different when it comes to the WhatsApp normal, WhatsApp business or the enterprise version, what we are talking of, and also when you're using the WhatsApp through the APIs, right? So this is the first part of it, and the second part of it. I'll request Khushbu, if you're joined back, you can take on this question, please.
Can I? Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, let me go back onto the Shahid's question when it comes to when he was pointing out the part that all these why are we crying about, or why there is so much of a discussion about these private entities or these multinational foreign entities who are owning all these messenger apps or other platforms, when on the other hand our law enforcement agencies already have access to a lot of things, and they can intercept and they can do all other things. This is something I fail to understand, the part that there is something called as due process of law, which one should not forget. Then another part, that a state, which is represented, whose guardian is law enforcement agencies, cannot abandon its responsibility to protect its citizens. When you're talking about these platforms, these are supranational entities who have just walked into the shoes of the state and performing these actions with no legal provisions or no accountability to anybody. There is something called as accountability. There is something called as due process of law, which all the law enforcement agencies have to look into. Whereas Smith was also talking about that none of the law enforcement agencies can enter into or can do anything without a proper FIR in place, or without proper the due process being followed. So there is something called as law of the land. There is something called as one has to follow, and these supranational entities cannot just walk into the shoes of the state and say that, okay, we are the state now, we have our own laws, we have our own norms, our company's policy would be bigger. And opening yourself to such entities who you practically do not know they sell it to, and what all other entities do they share it, what all antisocial elements are having access to that data which these entities have it, and the kind of things you share. I mean, today's discussion is just about WhatsApp, so let me restrict to WhatsApp. The kind of access WhatsApp data access WhatsApp would have, no other entity would have it. Its entire policy was based upon the part of end-to-end encryption. It is your private messenger. Now today you say that it's about business entities. They're going to share it with obviously internal, but at the same time third parties. So what exactly are the procedures? What are you, if that is so, then why you don't have it, whereas European countries are concerned, why you just impose it in India? Because, they have different norms, they have different laws, they have GDPR, they have specific privacy laws in place. What I'm talking about is, don't be scared about your government, your state, which has a responsibility to protect yourself, which follows by proper norms and regulations. But give favor to this supranational business interest and uh, 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 any other activities which they would go for. I'm not saying that all your these supranational entities are bad or good, or law enforcement are good or bad, but there is a fine line or distinction between the two, and their process and their obligations, and what are their duties. One should not forget, and we should be little, if you're living in a democratic world, giving rights to the government, then abide by that.
And one thing I would like to add here, I mean, law enforcement agencies at all, if at all they intercept or tap it, then they would be doing it for specific cases wherein the matter of national security is involved. So they will not be tapping or recording en mass communication, first thing. Second thing is, uh, law enforcement agencies are not to monetize the data. They are there to protect the interest of the nation, wherein other multinationals are to monetize the data, earn profit out of it, and protect interest of their shareholders. So this is a major difference between these two scenarios. So we cannot keep both them side by side and have a comparison.
Absolutely, there's no comparison whereas these
In,
two are
fa-
concerned.
in fact, I may add on one more line on top of this. Whenever we voluntarily help law enforcement agencies, we are also being limited by law enforcement agencies only to give our overviews and what all we can value at them from the technology tools or analysis point of view. Even we are not being given exposed to any sort of sensitive information that they are particularly exposed whenever there is a complaint that has been filed. So that amount of confidentiality, integrity, and availability that has been taken up on their particular shoulders. So this is the experience that I'm sharing with you.
Yeah. Any other question? Anybody who's got it?
Thank you so much. Yeah, Om, you have a question. Go ahead and ask. Unmute yourself, and if you can put on your video, that would be great.
So Khushbu missed my question and she took a previous question.
So, okay,
I'm so sorry.
Khushbu, I think you can take, I'll just read out the question.
Yes, please.
How does it impact a business, to be specific, India IT business? From the perspective of coming up PDP, EU GDPR, and California CCPA, and maybe a few more upcoming regulations. I think this is the question. The second question I answered you, Om.
Yes.
Okay. So, if I understand your question, that in case of your pending PDP bill comes in place, what impact it would have on Indian businesses? Am I right?
That's right.
Perfect. So, we can take this as a good opportunity. The recent action which was taken by Government of India of banning few Chinese apps, looking into the aspect of not abiding with certain norms of, they were taking data which they were not telling us, and then those sensitive data were going and residing in their country, and there were a lot of issues in that regard. Indian incorporation is practically, Indian Inc is completely, if you see, it's nurturing, it's still at that nascent stage, and we are booming, it's at the booming stage. So why not incorporate the best practices, whereas these data protection norms are concerned, whereas privacy norms at the time of making of the applications, and abide by all these norms. And at the same time, this can give a good competition to any other foreign entity coming in place, because if the data protection comes in place, they would have norms with regard to data localization. They would have other norms as to incorporate those 9 data privacy principles of consent and limitation access and XYZ about that part. So why not have those norms in place as of now, abide by those regulations, and have a good competition, whereas entire world is concerned. At the same time, when we talk about digital space, we are not just restricted to India. Our Indians are not just restricted to having business in India. They might have businesses or they might have access, whereas other countries are concerned. So we might have to I mean, half of our Indian corporations have abided, or try to the queries which I get and which I see is looking into how do we comply with GDPR, because we need have our big access in GDPR or in European countries, or we need to have business in Australia or in Europe or in California. So why not have a maximum most stringent incorporation, whereas of these norms, of these privacy norms as on date, so that we are absolutely in sync with laws and can have a ace over other entities, especially if data localization thing comes in place. Now, another thing which I look into it is that another stream of business which is flourishing out of it. You would have data protection officers, you would have other entities to look into it. So that's a new stream of businesses which one can enter into and can have their business, they can have their future in. At the same time, I would say that third one, that if you have such stringent regulations in place, Indian businesses can flourish on the aspect that looking into non-personal data and personal data, what exactly they can buy, what exactly data they can sell on, what are the data they can have more access to flourish their business entities, to have better access to data and understanding over it. So I would say that as on date, if these bills are not there and all of a sudden something comes tomorrow, you would be in a difficulty. Or let's say you want to enter into other countries, it would be difficulty. So why not have stringent norms now and go ahead with it? I don't find it to be having any impact whereas Indian business is concerned. Just on the part that yes, one have to be a little more in compliance with regulations, whereas data protection is concerned or site security is concerned. But I think that's a high time one has to look into. We cannot forget as businesses or any new entity coming in place that we ignore the part of information or cyber security. Over to you, Om.
Yeah, so thanks. So I did not, mean the pain part of the impact. There could be some positive impact and
That's what I
maybe
was talking about, the positivity
new
that.
opportunities. So coming back to a specific point which I wanted to highlight here. So when GDPR came in EU, basically for the citizens in European countries where companies store their data, collect their data, process their data, the customers' data, and third-party data, they had to take written consent, and everybody had to create something, a consent page on their website saying that if you agree, if you allow us to store your data or send an email to you or whatever communication they would do with citizens. There was a big effort on behalf of the companies which they had to carry out for a certain period of time. So do you see, or do we see something similar going to happen in case of PDP, which would be coming up, or a lot of Indian companies also do business in California, and they have their centers over there, or they are either part of it, or their subsidiaries there. So, I mean, with all this in 2021, what would be the readiness required on behalf of companies, small and medium companies, as well as large companies, to comply with these regulations?
All right. So I think you fairly summed up about the part that explicit consent and consent. But as on date today, yes, Indian companies are also looking into the part. They're already complying with the part of giving you terms and conditions, giving you privacy policy. But yes, we have to have that. There would be a change, or we have to comply with if PDP comes in place. That what are the specific data? You have to tell me what data are you taking from me. Apart from telling me that what data are you taking from me, you have to tell me that. Okay, this data is taken for this specific purpose. I'm going to keep it. There has to be a sunset clause that for how long I'm going to take your data. What am I going to do with your data? Those 9 principles, if I may repeat, about accountability, identifying purposes, informed or explicit consent, limiting collection. You need to have a limit to the collection. You cannot ask anything and everything which doesn't have direct nexus to your business. You just cannot go on asking. Limiting use of your of users' data. There has to be a disclosure. There has to be a clause of retention that for how long you would retain. There has to be accuracy. There have to be openness. They have to tell me clearly, as big business entities have to tell clearly that, okay, ABC data is to be used for this purpose, CD is for this purpose, ABC will be kept for this long, BC will be kept for this long, and for this purpose we're going to keep it. Plus, there should be an option that if you don't want to be part of serving of the data, please write us to this specific email or contact the data protection officer or whoever we have it as an entity to email it or talk to them, so that you're not no more part of those data. This is what current rules are. If they come in place, there can be changes, there can be new, we are not yet certain that draft bill would incorporate what all things, but yes, this would be there in that also, which is a good thing to have it specifically in place, so that we flourish not just in India, as I was saying earlier also, that our entities would not be, where a cyber world is concerned, we would not be restricted to having just your user base in India, but we might enter into other countries as well. So why not have this stringent 9 or 10 privacy safeguards in place while making your app or while making your website or having your business in place. And at least major has been covered by you, and then the rest is very specific to country-specific norms about explicit consent, about data related to children, what you have to do. California is very specific about the part that any children, which is very, I find it as to be very good state, that any children 18 years below who have uploaded anything on internet on those platforms, if they don't want to now after 18, they feel that no, this is not something which we wanted, they can just ask that this has to be removed. There is a provision. So there should be an inbuilt provision of that, is what California has it for children, because, looking into the part that there has been basis about it that whatever they do it before 18 is not, they want to delete it. So there are different norms of every other country which one can have, but there would be an extra norms. But whereas others, why not incorporate that today also? And PDP is slightly stringent as other norms. We may say it not exactly like GDPR, but to more or large, one can see that yes, there are, we are reaching to that level of it. And if I may just add PDPR, GDPR also, the data says that they cannot, it's so strict that they cannot implement completely. It has been just 75% of an implementation of GDPR as on date.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Khushbu. Thanks, Colonel Inder. Thanks, all panelists. Let us quickly move on to the next panel discussion, which is on what's next for customers. And I would request Khushbu, if you can lead the conversation, and we all will continue the same panel. But I would request Khushbu to kindly lead the discussion. Khushbu, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chintanji. But I think we are more or less covering business and personal in the same discussion. It's the same set of, audience, and at the same time panel. We can continue the same discussion, how it impacts personally. But I think business and personal is similar, whereas WhatsApp is concerned, is my personal view is, because, if you're taking my data, you are taking my data, your entire, your basis, as I was saying, that your basis of WhatsApp it's a messenger app. It's a personal messenger app, which has end-to-end encryption. They would not share your data. They would not look into your data. Tomorrow, all of a sudden, you become their product instead of, their customers.
Yes,
so
we are on the same page. I'm with you on that part. Only thing is, in this portion of the panel, we would discuss that what are the rights we have as far as the youngsters, housewives, senior citizens are concerned, what kind of grievance redressal mechanism we can exercise, how law is there to protect us, and probably Abhishek can share one or two use cases in this domain, so that would actually cover the customer part, the individual customer part. Because
why not we ask Abhishek? Absolutely. Why not we start with one or two examples from Abhishek's point of view and then take it forward.
Yeah, Abhishek, please go ahead.
So from my personal experience, I would like to say that we should means the people who are putting out data for WhatsApp, there are other ways or other medium also, like job portals and other portals, where they just put out the data, and another ways are like when they install the app, they don't read the permission that the app required, so they just put out the data, and they, like, just a minute. So people just put out the data randomly in every places, and later they realize that it was their mistake. So I think that we should have some training mechanism. Like currently, what we do is banks and other portals, they send message like we don't ask for OTP and we don't ask for other things. We should now. It is like an organization way back then when they used to display the hoardings and small pamphlets in the office, like don't share the passwords and other things. So if we move on to a little bit offensive or something like that, in which we train out people to like say means we target them as an attacker, and we do exercise in our offices and other environments, and in that we will train. If the user clicks on the link and other ways, we can train them like, yes, you did the mistake here, and we should you what should be avoided to the same mistake, so they will not fall, and it will not just be a the thing which is currently done by government and other agencies, like just sharing SMS and other bombarding or spamming their users. It will be a very effective way, and I would like to say that it can be covered in CSR or by if the and with permission of government of India. It will be a very good step.
Yeah, very rightly said, Abhishek. But in fact, I would like to add here that unlike we have fire drills, which are mandatory in all companies as part of the Factories Act, we should also now have these cyber security drills so that at least we are able to maintain the level of awareness in minds of all employees and all stakeholders. So yes, would you like to share a couple of use cases what you were mentioning before we started the panel?
So a few months back, we were investigation one case in which there was some like sorry, just I have. Mm, I'd like to say that. Sir, can you just explain like what you are looking for, like in use case or something like that?
Yeah, I was just reminding you that you said that yes, in the customer, I mean, what's next for customer section, you would like to narrate a certain investigative case wherein you have changed their names and entities and all, so you are not definitely going to disclose anything, but you would like to narrate the learning that what happened and what was the learning. So that is where I am coming from. I am trying to trigger that conversation.
No,
What
actually, I have told I will not disclose anything, and but the thing is like people are just posting information there online and without knowing what is the end product or something like that. But we should train the people about actively. We should train them actively, not just proactively bombarding us or spamming them with the messages. We should train them. That's my point.
Okay, thank you, thank you. And if we look from the customer point of view, I mean, let us say, what are the grievances redressal mechanism as far as cyberbullying is concerned, and where one should approach and file a complaint, and how law protects us? So, Kushbu, would you like to share some light on that? How can we get protection on such aspects?
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's similar. It has no impact of new privacy or old policy or whatever it is. Whereas cyberbullying is concerned, that's a crime, and that's been there has been specific sections in Information Technology Act whereas cyberbullying is concerned. At the same time, there has been changes in the IPC, which has incorporated bullying as part of certain part of um, in its sections. They have made amendments whereas bullying is concerned. Specifically, we look into the part of children or women or girls. What are the effects of what punishments one can go, and what does what defines cyberbullying per se. So I would say that any kind of harassment or threaten or embarrassment or targeting any other person. Now this kind of cyberbullying this comes under the definition of cyberbullying. And when this happens, it can be at any platform. It can be on Instagram. It can be on Twitter. It can be on any other place, including your WhatsApp. So anything using the medium of electronic medium would be part of, would come under the category of cyberbullying, and what one can do about it. I mean, obviously one has to go to the law part of it, but before that you can tell the same to the other person, and can give you can walk away, or you can, report about it. Now, report about it is, everybody has a specific portion where you can report itself over there. If it comes under certain categories on their own platform, you can report it. Or else what you can do is you can block that person, which I would not suggest, but if there are certain different scenarios, one can do it. But if you don't have to do that also, then you can very well go and you can, file a complaint. There are two ways to file a complaint. One, you can do it online at cybercrime.gov.in. You can be anonymized. You can have a proper complaint, give details about it, safeguard, save your screenshot, URL, and any other things which you have as an evidence to put it, and have a small brief description about what exactly happened, and you can lodge it on cybercrime.gov.in. The other is you can go to the nearest police station and give details about it. Again, at the same time, you need to have a copy of a complaint, annex it make it as brief as you can, don't elaborate, don't have excessive details and extra information. Be very specific to the incident, add annexures to, take a printout, have certain details. Where did that happen? How did that happen? On what platform? And if you know about the person, then put that. If it's anonymous person, then put that. Give the URL. Take a screenshot. Take a printout of the screenshot. Attach all of these things. Go to the nearest police station. Complain it over there. You can also, looking at the pandemic, people have started. That have been in cooperation by the law enforcement, that you can mail everything and can continue from there, and it can be taken forward. So these are a few ways that one can go. But if it's not just WhatsApp, it's other entities. So, there have been platforms have specific areas where you can go and you can say report. Report, they have got certain categories. By those categories it doesn't fit, then you say something else, and then you give details over there, and one can approach over there for them to take immediate action on it. If not, then yes, it's an offense. It's a criminal act. You very well can approach law enforcement agencies.
Thank you so much.
If it's not, so I'll go on the other aspect, that if it's, there are more heinous crimes apart from cyberbullying, which is something called as pornography. There have been groups where child pornography was being shared and spread all over. So these are proper clear offense, whereas your POCSO and your IPC is concerned. So there also one can report, or one can look into it, because when we talk about child pornography, creating, sharing, even watching is a crime. So if you're part of a WhatsApp group and they make you part of a group where such child pornographic things are being shared, even if you're watching, that's a criminal offense. Not that you share it or anything else. So looking into all that aspect, yes, be a little more vigilant, and one can apply. One can file a case, or one can give a complaint, and can take it forward from there.
Yeah, Chintan, I'd like to add something. This is very close to my heart, this particular point of child pornography and POCSO and identifying and into the darknet and something like that. Rather than we looking in from a criminal perspective of cyberbullying, there's something called a cyber citizenship, which we seldom talk in India. It's very much prevalent in Europe and US, where a small child, today you see any kid, you go to the airport and see a parent giving a mobile to a small toddler, let him play. And at an average, what's happening is there are 7 screens which are being seen by a kid by the age he turns, a decent kid, by the age he turns 5. Right. And what he's been doing there, what he's not doing there is always a question and point to ponder. We never tell them what are the rule of the game and how do he really needs to, browse through different sites. And that's where we are going wrong. And that's where the cyberbullying, genesis, the seed is being sowed, right? And it grows grows beyond proportion to what we see. Today, any school or a team, there are almost 50 to 60% of the kids who are being cyberbullied. But if you ask them, nobody will commit whether they're being cyberbullied. The reason is they don't know whether they're being cyberbullied. Right. So this is something systemic thing which is important. Now coming on to the sites, the darknet where the child pornography is being sold, there are places where people are uploading child pornographic stuff. Kerala had a case during COVID where people have been caught circulating the child pornography on WhatsApp itself, But that was a challenge again, which was there to track them down, to put them onto the mat and bring down to the law. Right. So the things are very different when it comes to the child pornography, cyberbullying, are there, and all these cases are international cases. Like in the case where the darknet, where last year there was a case where a Australian guy and a Korean guy, they were being caught using for the uploading of the videos of children, and they were brought down. But then it took them almost police to law enforcement agencies all across. I think there were 4 countries which they were involved to bring down that kind of darknet site. It's not easy to work in the darknet. To bring down the darknet site, it took almost a year plus to investigate and pinpoint a person. So these are the kind of things when it comes to the cyberbullying on the social media, right? And coming back to the WhatsApp and the other platforms, what we started with the privacy part of it. So I think one point which we need to discuss about is that what next, when it comes to the WhatsApp, and we saw a lot of exodus from the WhatsApp, which was happening in last couple of days, and people trying to go onto the Signal and the Telegram, right? And just knowing that there's something called a Signal, let's jump onto the Signal and let's go onto the Telegram, for the heck of sake of going to the Telegram. So that's what the kind of situation which practically we were seeing, and suddenly after 10 days, the number of users from Signal, grew from 10 million to 50 million, and their servers crashed. Okay, and those are the kind of situation where it is, and the questions about, there was lots of, on the social media itself, there were lots of comparison between what WhatsApp takes, what Signal takes, what Telegram takes. I think this is an important point which you also wanted to discuss, and we can have an open discussion amongst everyone as to what are the viewpoints. Yeah, I think we can open the house now for everyone to come up and bring up their views on it, and because this question has got no real answer, right? It's open answer and open questions to itself when it comes up. When it comes to the privacy, when it comes to the challenges, when it comes to the security part of it. So I think we can have a open discussion on this for a couple of minutes before we find it.
So just before, I want to know, I want to just inform about discuss about the 2 cases that and one is like there is a person named Anwar Khan, and the case is like what importance of our personal data. So there was a CBSE results, and before CBSE results, he has checked his son's result. The person has like received a call from an unknown person saying that your person's marks are like not up to the mark, and for getting admission in good college, you need you can, if you can pay us something, and we can arrange something like some good college. So the person has like sold everything and land and all the things, and arranged the money of 2.5 lakhs. And after paying 2.5 lakhs, he realized that he has been scammed. So I want to discuss this case study because just on a roll number, the person on the other end has just the roll number of the student. So we can see that the importance of the data, that I can share my roll number with anyone, but I have never planned or thought like that this could be this grave situation where the person can even do that sort of crime. And the one other thing which I would like to share is like there is currently no regulation in India which regarding the regulation of buying or selling of softwares that do monitoring. So if you are an individual and you want to monitor another individual, you can buy sell softwares in India. Since there is no regulation, it is not a crime. So government should also come up with some rules and regulation regarding the same.
Well said, Abhishek. Another aspect I would like to bring in as far as the youngsters are concerned is gaming, because they are involved into a lot of gaming activities and gaming app inside, and that is where their attention and they get a chance for getting cyberbullied. So we as a seniors parents, we must be cognizant about the time they are spending on such gaming activities. uh, Sorry. Rajesh wanted to say something. Rajesh, go ahead.
So I just want to share a few things with my experience in anti-cybercrime activities. So historically, if you see the ads on the TV, they still focus on passwords and password changing. Even the mails that come to customers, users, end users from banks, they're still restricted to telling people, okay, please don't share your password, have an OTP and stuff like that. But the world has changed a lot. The crime has changed a lot. I think there is no central place available where you get to see the kind of crimes that are happening right now. I don't know how many of you are aware also of it. Probably the last commercial program that ran was something called Jamtara, which gave people an idea as to how the phishing happens to the phone calls. That also has passed. The new era of crime is the social crime wherein today's kids are putting their data unknowingly onto Facebooks and various other platforms, Instagram, you name it, not realizing the combination of their certificate numbers, the combination of their happy birthdays which are getting posted, the combination of where they are, the combination of other information that they've shared, thinking that that's a great thing to happen, is engineering the crime. So where do people go and see these things and try to improve their level of maturity for understanding that you cannot share things anymore? You have to be very discreet and be very limited into what you share. You can't land up taking photographs of your houses, photographs of certain places you are, and start putting it up in a public thing and then expect not to get hacked or looked at. So this is another challenge wherein nobody today can tell you, okay, what is the latest crime? They'll tell you crime trends, but what the kind of crimes are happening, how they can safeguard themselves, that is the real problem, and nobody's ready to take it and forefront and put it across to people.
Thank you. Thanks, Rajesh. Vinayak, Sudhakar, Shivram Krishnan, would you like to add anything? Any feedback about today's session? Shahid,
So
Sachin Karkhanis.
I would like to introduce something more like we
Yeah,
should
please go.
we should treat digital world as a physical world only, or as you say, it's an extension of a digital physical world only. So when we say like Vinayak sir, do you want to say something? Okay. No. So when we say
Yeah,
crime,
I just wanted to say one observation. Now, let it be the enterprise, paid users or free users, like we end customers who use WhatsApp or other social media tools. These companies are going to get the data about us, and they are going to use for a profit, officially or unofficially. So the best approach should be to form the NGO kind of professionals kind of and government a joint body or some monitoring mechanism which will regularly uses monitor and track the uses of a data by these companies and giving them the access rights within the companies how the data is managed formally. So are there such movements going on anywhere in the world, and how is India placed there? That was my.
I would like to say that making one more organization to like monitor other or monitor another organization is a great risk. Like when we don't know when an organization will fail is in its security measures, and from like as I was talking about the extension of a physical digital world is an extension of a physical world. So we should not treat is like things in a digital way or on a randomly, because if people are aware of a Ashley Madison hack, many people have committed suicide because their digital world was very much bad. So when we are in a digital world, we should treat as every person as an individual, and we should treat them as we should have treated them in a physical world.
Okay, thanks, Abhishek. We move on to Sudhakar, Shivram Krishnan, Shahid, Sachin,
Yes,
Rafael.
it's a fruitful, discussion over the
Shahid,
last.
Shahid, we are losing your voice. I'm not able to hear you clearly.
Is it clear now?
Bit better, but still there is a feeble voice which is coming.
Okay, I think there may be some errors. So, I'm trying to convey my message because training and discussion under the your leadership. So we need to understand how it will be in
Shahid, not
market.
able to hear you clearly, buddy.
Typing
Shahid,
down.
Shahid, can you log off and log in once again, please? I mean,
Sure.
literally, it is, we are not able to hear you. Okay, let us move on. Meanwhile, Rafael, would you like to share a feedback? Paresh, Manisha, Karan?
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes,
Oh,
Rafael.
cool. Hi, thanks. Yeah, this was a really a wonderful session. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to uh, attend this session. Really gained a lot. Could understand what's the nitty-gritties behind, because a lot of information is shared in the media, but then hearing it from experts was really useful. So this gives me, in particular, an opportunity to look into various um applications that I have subscribed to and what I should be looking forward, and revisit those permissions that have been granted access. So it's very useful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Rafael. Abhay, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, hi sir. I'm audible to you.
Yes, now much better. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yes, sir. Actually, means I need to understand. Then it's a great discussion under your leadership, Mr. Chinta, and it's a good to know about policies, about the means detailed discussion for the WhatsApp policies. How it will be benefit for the Indian market for a business purpose. Then means how the businessman can adopt the policies to for this WhatsApp for a controlled uses and for a business case improvement.
Okay, so let me answer this. As one of our panelists stated that rather than going for a premium mode of apps like WhatsApp or Telegram or Signal, all enterprise are recommended to use the paid license versions of messengers. They are more secure, and when you are paying, you are getting the service as a customer, and you have right as a customer. In a freemium model, you become the product, and that is where your data gets monetized. So this is a
Okay.
simple answer to this question. I hope I'm
Okay.
able to answer your query.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Great, great.
Uh,
Thank you so much. And here we have overshot the event by 3 minutes. However, I thank you so much to all the panelists who for spending time and sharing insightful knowledge with all of us. I would request Rafael to extend vote of thanks on behalf of TMI community. Rafael, over to you.
Thank you again for giving me this opportunity, Chintan. Uh, Thank you for to all the panelists for spending your valuable time this Sunday morning and giving us an insight into the various issues that we are facing in the digital world. It was really a privilege to all of us participants in hearing the experts uh, share your views, and it was very authentic. I thank Mr. Inder, Khushbu, especially for the various inputs Khushbu gave, and giving us an insight as to where we stand and what all areas she's working towards with the different authorities. That was very useful, I thought. Inder, thank you for guiding us, for guiding the panelists and walking through various questions. That was very
thank you.
pertinent. Um, Thank you, Chintan, for bringing us all together, for leading the TMI community, and
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
for thank you, Smith. I have not noted down the names, so sorry if I've missed out anyone. But these were different points that I had in mind, and I thought I'll share out.
Right.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Chintan.
Have a
Thanks,
great
Dr.
day
Yeah.
ahead. Thanks,
Thank you so
thanks,
much.
Kanal sir. Thanks, Khushbu. Thanks,
Thank
Abhishek.
you.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
Vikas.
much.
Thanks,
Thank you
Chintan.
so much.
Thanks,
Bye
April.
bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Th-
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Sunil.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks, Rafael.
Thank you all.